The Mystery of BELICENA VILLCA. Fourth Book. Quest for Uncle Kurt. Chapter 21. The Oberfuhrerpap, old friend, imposed me the details of the mission. The departure would be in 4 days, because they had already victuals, equipment, weapons, false documentation, etc. In reality, only in that moment, I saw it with clarity. Such operation was prepared since a long time ago, and, it seems, it just depended on me to be put in execution. That's to say, that all those who participated in the operation, of its secret, including the Führer, were waiting for my initiation, waiting for the moment in which I would acquire the spiritual consciousness of the key of the sign, to expose me, the mission in Asia. I think that I had never felt so ashamed as then. Me, the stupid and arrogant apprentice initiate, had lost months, precious months, trying to deepen rationally in the Hyperborean wisdom of the Black Order. At last, I went comprehending that I was transiting through a blind alley, that I was a prey of the trap of the logic. I searched in my spirit the last truth of the reason, and the rational knowledge denied me. Thus, I propitiated the initiatic Kairos, according to the affirmation that the initiates in the Black Order made of it. Then, I was initiated, and Conrad Tarstein explained me the character of the mission. First key, such his encoded denomination, and he described me the faculty that I should employ to close the door of Shambhala, door that Ernst Schaefer was wanting to open, and that perhaps he was opening in that moment. Those thoughts, and this possibility, anguished me extremely, and with the truth, if I affirmed that, even those 4 days, to leave were interminably long. The first step was by plane. We would fly from Berlin to Tanzania, in the eastern coast of Africa, doing scale in many African countries, in the colonies of the allies of Germany, as Spain and Italy. In Tanzania, in the region of what was until the First World War, the state of Zanzibar, we would hurl ourselves in parachute, over the farm of an ancient family of German colonists, who worked for the Secret Service. Such route should be followed, because the mission was qualified as top secret operation of the Waffen-SS, and because the flight was effectuated in a military plane specially adapted for the case. It was a Dormier, or flying pencil, which its classic bomb charge had been replaced by supplementary fuel tanks. In Tanzania, then, we descended without problems as we as the charge of weapons and equipments. The colonists were waiting for us, there since a long time ago, and they had acquired a shipload of cotton thread for us, in which they hurried to hide the compromising objects. 1 day later, and wearing an attire of indubitable Levantan confection, very appropriate for the role of the Egyptian merchants that we had to represent, the colonists guided us to the Isle of Zanzibar in a barge of regular dimensions. In the port was anchored the Italian vessel Taranto, which participated secretly in the operation, and would transport us to Dhaka, in the northwest of India. In Zanzibar, our identity changed completely. Me, as the 2SS Führer, we would be thenceforth Egyptian merchants. Was a risky move, because Egypt was in power of the English, but our forged passports and stories had few failures, and it seemed difficult that we would await many suspicions as to initiate an investigation. I was truly Egyptian, and I spoke as good English as Arab, idiom that my comrades also dominated, although not the English that they spoke with a strong German accent. However, and once reached the case, would be enough for them to talk correctly in Arab, because in Egypt, no one is obeyed to know English. The Tarantino crossed the Indian Ocean, with just one call in Ceylon, and then, it entered in that Bay of Bengal towards Kolkata and Dhaka. Finally, it ascended through the river Dalazari, which is an arm of the Brahmaputra, and it anchored before its left shore, in the port Dhaka, important city of what was the presidency of the own Bengal, then province of Bengal, later the Islamic State of the eastern Pakistan, and today, Bangladesh. The shipload of African thread, with its precious contraband, could be disembarked without inconvenience and stored in a deposit that we rented with that effect. We were not planning to stay too much in Dhaka, just the necessary to sell, or change the threat for the rich silks, and Bengali muslins, supply us with victuals, and contract bearers. Our next goal was the city of Punakha, capital of winter of the country of Bhutan. There was waiting for us, the SS Standartenführer Karl von Grossen, and his assistant, the SS Obersturmführer Heinz Schmidt, both, from the 3rd Division of the RSHA, that is to say, the General Management of the Security of the Reich, called, Foreign Service of Information, or, SD Exterior. Karl von Grossen was the chief of the Operation Primary Key, and, even if he had immediate superiors to Schellenberg and Heydrich, for this mission, he was put under the direct command of the rich Führer Himmler. They had already advanced us, many months ago, and he maintained, in some strange mode, under permanent observation to the caravan of Ernst Schaefer. He had fame of intelligent and rude man. He had been also a policeman, as my assistants Klester and Hans, revisiting many years in the Gestapo of Baviera. However, he requested the pass to the SD Exterior, to enforce his doctorate in history. He was expert in history, and geography of Asia, a part of specialist in tactics of rapid deployment knowledges, that explain, why the rich Führer Himmler elected him to command the Operation First Key. 3 days later, we went out from Dhaka, towards the north, taking a path that surrounded the left shore of the Brahmaputra, until Benapaya, and then, it deviates in direction to Rangpur, the residence of the Raja of Assam. We were in the autumn of 1938, and the suffocating weather of those marshy regions, furrowed by countless rivers, and only apt for the rice cultivation, produced us, the desire to ascend to high and cold zones of Bhutan. The 2 SS Obersturmführer, Hans Lechfeld, and Klester Hagen, were marching ahead, preceded by 15 bearers pure Aryans, with all the shipload. I closed the column. We just exhibited 3 fusils Mozart of the First World War, weapons according to our profession of merchants, while we occulted amongst the clothings, the pistols leisure of service, and the bagpacks, the fearsome submachine gun Smizer. We camped for a day, in the hills Garo, and we crossed the Assam, without stopping more than the indispensable. Soon, we were at more than 200 meters of height, rejoiced for leaving, behind the tropical regions, infested with wild animals, and by the not less wild bandits of the tribes Anka, Mishi, Daflay, Abas, etc. A footpath, which meandered through the eastern slope of the Himalayas, guided slowly to the Bhutan. In the village of Takadzong, they received us with great rampage, as if we were ambassadors of some occidental potency, what caused great contrariness, because we didn't want to attract the attention of English, nor of any real diplomats of any nation. However, the mystery soon was clarified, at verifying that 2 envoys of von Grossen expected our arrival since months ago, to take us to Punakha. They were 2 lepers, functionaries of the Det Raja of Bhutan. Accompanied by the thin, but vigorous lepers, also of Aryan race, we crossed numerous small valleys, nestled between mountain ranges of enormous height. After each echelon of the Himalayan slope, we ascended hundreds of meters, not being infrequent the steps, or TVARAS, of 5,000 meters. The lepers spoke Bodskud, the Tibetan language that I, as Ostenführer, comprehended perfectly. In the dialect of Jem, they explained us that we would not go directly to Punakha, because there, next to the Det Raja, was located the English garrison. Karl von Grossen was in a nearby monastery, under the protection of the spiritual chief of the country, the Dharma Raja. Finally, we arrived to the Tagoas monastery, constructed over a mount covered by eternal snows, and whence spawns a rugged footpath, only apt for pedestrians, which crossed the Himalaya, and guided to the Tibet. Karl von Grossen and his assistant came to our meeting. Heil Hitler. I feared that you wouldn't arrive on time, he said as for every salute. Heil Hitler. I responded. The SS Obersturmführer, Dr. Klester Hagen, and the SS Sturmbannführer, Kurt von Suberman. Satiel, main Standart and Führer. Karl von Grossen observed me attentively, with scientific curiosity. So, you are the mysterious initiate from whom depends the destiny of the Third Reich? He asked amazed. I imagined you different. How? I exclaimed, perturbed for the indiscreet honesty of the Standartenführer. Don't take it bad, he said smiling for first time, but, is that here, has been talked a lot of you, perhaps more than in Germany. You know, these people have psychic faculties very developed, and for many weeks, they have perceived you, while you were coming. I would not exaggerate at all, if I affirm you, that the whole spiritual Tibet knows in this moment, your arrival to Bhutan. Well, von Subayman, you have been psychically observed and described, in many different ways, hence my doubts. There are some, who sustain that, you're a great saint, and others, on the contrary, make of you a terrible warrior. Once again, the interrogation was painted in his face. But we know that, you are the last. Don't we? There was a tone of doubt in the voice of von Grossen, that bothered me a lot. Indeed, Kamerad von Grossen. According to the rule of the Black Order, I am a warrior, a wise warrior. I ignore what appearance you supposed that I had, but, have no doubts that, I am capable to kill in the most terrible way. And that, I will kill in that mode, whoever tries to frustrate my mission. Bravo! Karl exclaimed with evident sincerity. I repeat, you must forgive my surprise, but, after so many months waiting, and hearing the craziest stories of the llamas, I didn't know any more what kind of man they were waiting. I am happy to know that, you're a complete officer SS, von Subayman. Karl von Grossen, and Heinz Schmidt, who not said any word neither, nor would say afterwards, because, he was otherwise discreet, they had reached us 5 kilometers before the monastery. In that moment we arrived, and we were invited to enter in a comfortable hall, where was burning firewood, and guano in a stone home. Outside reigned a temperature of 10 degrees below zero. In reality, we were not in a simple monastery of llamas, as I had supposed, but, in a small citadel surrounded by a dissuasive wall. Behind the walls existed 3 edifices of very different architecture. The most imposing was the palace of Dharmaraja, where in winter resided the spiritual chief of Bhutan. The second, in importance, was an ancient pagoda, perhaps the oldest construction of the set. Is a temple carved magnificently in just one, and colossal piece of stone, Karl von Grossen explained us when we crossed the exterior courtyard. It dates from the times in which this region was dominated by the Buddhist priests of Menaipi. The temple was dedicated to the cult of the Vajrasvata Menu, who reigns the present Manvantara, or Manvantara, that is to say, the cycle of the existence of a humanity of animal men. Later, the country was conquered by a tribe Lopa, at the command of Taoist initiates, who were profoundly iconoclasts, and hated to all the priests, without distinction of cult. They, naturally, closed the temple after passing by knife their last dwellers. If that would have not been thus, now, it would be venerated here to Maitreya, the next reincarnation of Menu, who would not be anyone else than the Messiah that the Jews wait. But, the orders of Buddhist priests have not forgotten this place, and they waylaid permanently, searching for the opportunity to reconquer it. The third construction, in which we were, was the monastery properly said, and it consisted in a labyrinthine edifice, where dwelt together a numerous community of Tibetan monks and nuns. Such composition of mixed initiates surprised me, and thus, I made it known to von Grossen. Is that the actual occupants constitute a secret society, that is not Hindu, neither Buddhist, nor Taoist, but, that is beyond such religious systems. And beyond, doesn't mean, above, but out. It means that, the wisdom that they have, is located out from the religious systems. They don't sustain, then, a mere syncretism, but a real spiritual wisdom, possibly just as you in the Black Order, and we, in the Institute Ananra, call Hyperborean wisdom. Indeed, they adhere completely to National Socialism, although they are not interested too much in the politics as in the philosophy of the SS, and the earthly presence of the Führer, to whom they call the Lord of the Will. The 5 officers SS occupied chairs around the extreme of a table of notable longitude, a tiny group in a site where fitted more than 50 commensals. Karl von Grossen was seated in the center, backwards to the crackling home. The hulled carriers were resting in a nearby block. The conversation was interrupted when the 3 monks dressed with black tunics of yak's wool ingressed. They had the head covered with a hood sewn to the same tunic, what overshadowed their face, although it could be appreciated that the 3 had long hair, and that they were of Tibetan race, possibly lepers. 2 of them seemed to be very young and strong, and were of different sex. A yogi and a yogini, initiates in martial arts, which moved with feline grace. The third, an old man, of undefined age, said some words to von Grossen, in Bodskadavjam. The SS Standartenführer hurried to present him. Kameraden, before you, the Guru Vasaragad, chief of this monastery, with his 2 main sadhakas. They saluted, with a head inclination, to which we responded absurdly with the Nazi salute. In spite of they are the Amphitrians, Karl clarified, they request permission to stay at our side. I've responded them affirmatively, because they are people of absolute trust. Let's proceed, then, discussing our affairs. The monks took seat, and von Grossen continued speaking serenely in German. And during the time that the conversation lasted, I could realize with displeasure that they didn't remove their eyes from me, as if something in my aspect attracted irresistibly their attention, and would have hypnotized them. As I was saying, explained von Grossen, these monks constitute a secret society known as Kula. Their wisdom is the Klura, the tantrism of the left hand, a system of yoga that permits to transmute and take advantage of the sexual energy, but that requires the physical participation of the woman. Hence, the mixed population that has surprised you, von Subayman. The Kalikas are feared in the Tibet, because they are considered black magicians, but, in my opinion, the only black that they have is the tunic. It is evident that such qualification proceeds from their most ardent foes, the members of the White Fraternity, a mysterious organization that is behind the Buddhism and the other religions, and that is very powerful in these regions. By opposition and contrast to the White Fraternity, that the Kalikas are called black, because they are ascetics of elevated moral. All men and women that you have seen here are sadhakas valmakarias, what means Kalika magician, or initiate of the left hand. The women and men initiated in the path of Klura realize periodically a ritual denominated as the 5 challenges, in which they practiced the 5 forbidden acts to the masters of the Kalakikra, what explains why they are hated by the gurus of Shambhala. Vulgarly, the secret ritual is also known as Karmika, or of the 5M, because, with this letter, start the name of the 5 forbidden things: Media, wine; Mamsa, meat; Matsya, fish; Mudra, cereals; and Mithuna, sex. According to their Buddhist foes, by the practice of this ritual, the Kalikas are situated in the Vamumaya, or left-hand path, the path of the Kshatriyas, that guides to the war, and not to the peace, to Agartha, and not to Shambhala, to the absolute unification of oneself, and not to the nirvanic annihilation of the self, identified with the one parade Brahman. The truth is that, by means of these secret techniques of the sexual tantra, the Kalikas develops an incredible power over the animal nature of the human body, and even, they obtain the spiritual liberation. From the primitive Taoism, has remained a little, although formally, to avoid persecutions, the monks defined themselves as Taoist, religion more accepted by the Buddhist and Hindu princes of the neighbor countries. But, in the Shastras of Lao Tzd, that are conserved in the monastery, the word Tao has been substituted by Vrun, that is, for Shathai, the eternal and infinite spirit of man. Don't forget, von Subema, that here, we're in front of a wisdom that comes from a different source of Chang Shambhala, and for this reason, Shathai means pure spirit, a similar concept to the grace of the Occidental theology. Vrun is the ancient Indo-Aryan word that means infinite and uncreated, eternal spirit. From it come the signs that represent such senses. It means the runes revealed to the Aryans by Wetan. Also the god Varuna registers the same root. However, and according to the oldest traditions of the white race, Vruna proceeds also from the Atlantean word vril, which had identical meaning. You see, von Subema, that the vril, proposed in Germany, as spiritual ideal of Initiate SS, is an state represented here by Vruna, the tantric power to be beyond the Klur and Epta, and as the authentic spiritual Tao is beyond the yin and yang. For the spiritual man, the vril, as Vrun, keeps always the form of an ancient goddess, a divine Shathai, which is no other than the forgotten image of the couple of the origin. The Kalikas believe that, once reached the Vrun, what is only obtained after passing through the final death, the free spirit, is in front of the Tirth of the origin, reunited with its original couple, and the weddings of the spirit are consummated. After them, the eternity is recovered. The Kalika, dead, or alive, then a cold love, that is not from this universe, is experienced and remain reintegrated, to a race of Varuna gods, lords of the Vril. In sum, here, the Kalikas follow the Klur path, that begins in the woman of flesh, and ends in the original couple, in the profound of himself. At the end of this dangerous path, the Kalika, faced definitely with the truth, removed the veils of all the mysteries, of Shiva, the destroyer of the illusion, the warrior par excellence. For us, von Subema, Shiva is Lucifer, is Cain, is Hermes, is Mercury, is Wetan. For us, Shiva is the prototype of the SS Knight. The Guru Vasaragad and his Sadhakas continued observing me with delectation. The extraordinary inform given by Carl von Grossen had just revealed me why I had been chosen to chair such operation. To his gifts and military knowledges, the Standartenführer added a great comprehension of customs and religious beliefs of Asia. I decided to make him a concrete question about the main objective of the mission. I appreciate your valuable information, I said, but there's something that worries me since we arrived. Then, you said, I believed that you would not arrive on time. How much time do we have, Herr von Grossen? Little, very little, von Subema. But it will be enough if we leave as soon as possible, and redouble the march, to reach Schaefer, before the late Keeling. Are you aware that one of the integrants of the expedition, Officer Eskadville, will be given there, to a sect of fanatic murderers? Yes, I replied. I was informed in Berlin. What intrigues me, is how you have known it, which means you uses to know, in every moment the location of the expedition of Schaefer. It is not a secret, neither any mysterious, or supernatural procedure. Is pure espionage. The most classic studied case of espionage in the course of the security. As you already know, since the operational Twesten was conceived in Germany, it was infiltrated by the SD. We have 2 men of the Secret Service that have not awakened any suspicions in the mistrusted Ernst Schaefer. However, they would have not been capable to do anything without the support of the Caller Circle, whose tentacles are extended around the whole Tibet. Are the loyal Kalikas, who transport the messages to our spies, trough the Himalayas, and facilitate us, permanently the localization of the expedition. I already said you, von Subema, that in these countries, the Kalikas are greatly feared, and their fame favors the collaboration of superstitious dwellers. Fame that, in this sense, they are not unworthy at all, because, more than ascetics, they are warrior monks, and the traitors can be sure that sooner or later will die on their hands. Then, a vast spy network has been tended around our objective. It is convenient for you to know, von Subema, that the Dharmaraja, the spiritual chief of the entire country of Bhutan, is a secret follower of the Kala Circle, and for this motive, he has destined the contiguous palaces residents of winter. He hates the English intensely, and considers them representatives of the demons, and he has ordered that these help us be possible while we remain in their country. The second important man is the Depraja, to whom has been commissioned the administration and the issues of the state, for what he must stay in Punika, and bear the English, to whom he hates as much as the Dharmaraja. Anyhow, we count with the official safe conduct that will let us reach to the Tibet, and even move in that country, presenting ourselves as functionaries and merchants at the service of the Raja. According to what was said, continued von Grossen, we have very little time. Ernst Schaefer has left from Lhasa 3 weeks ago, following the route towards the Khemda, but its march is slow, because he doesn't want that any misunderstanding ruins his visit to Changshambala. It is known that his movements are permanently watched from the Tower Kampala. His caution becomes more comprehensible, also, if it is considered that he had to stay 1 year in Lhasa, in the palace of the Dalai Lama, until he received the authorization to approach to Changshambala. He must cross the door, and persuade his guards that, in fact, they count with the approval of the masters. It is understood then that he is trying to avoid mistakes and that he advances slowly towards to his infernal destiny. On our part, we must leave, as soon as possible, because the winter is coming, and soon the steppes of the Himalayas will become glaciers. However, once in the Tibet, we'll move away from the commercial route taken by Schaefer, and advance the working day until reach him.